Superboy number 24, written by Justin Jordan, art by Robson Roca. So last issue, Superboy was in high school, and then there was this someone with ESP powers, and then Psycho Pirate showed up. And it's apparently a tie into Psywar, I guess. So Psycho Pirate shows up, Eliza is still there. I doubt she'll ever be seen again, but Superboy says, "Go, get out of here, Eliza." So she runs off. And at that point, Psycho Pirate's like, "Hey, Superboy, I don't want to fight you." And Superboy says, "I want to fight you." And he's like, "Really?" And he's like, "No, actually, I'm totally calm now." "Oh, you mess with people's emotions, don't you?" Psycho Pirate's like, "Wow, yeah, you catch on pretty quick. Also, I'm not even really here right now. This is just a projection of me. I'm actually over talking to Superman in his book because, like it or not, you're part of this event, kiddo." So at that point, Psycho Pirate basically just starts talking to him, and it's just like, "Oh yeah, no, look, here's the thing. I just want to talk because you've got some crazy ass powers, and I just, I'm interested in them." But then all at once, Psycho Pirate's projection or whatever starts getting blasted by energy, and turns out it's Dr. Psycho. Yes, this is confusing. So Dr. Psycho steps up being like, "Hey, yeah, he's awful. He's from Hive. You don't want to know anything about him." And Psycho Pirate's like, "Oh, liar, liar, pants on fire. You are the bad one here, Dr. Psycho." So they start having a little psychic fight, but Psycho Pirate has his Medusa mask, which gives him increased powers on top of what he already has. So Dr. Psycho's not really able to do anything about it. And he's like, geez, Superboy, look, here's the thing. Haven't you considered the fact that Dr. Psycho seems like he's getting stronger, whereas you keep on getting weaker? Doesn't it seem like he's kind of, siphoning your powers off? You know what, here, let me show you the mindscape. And so he shows this mental projection of the relationship between Dr. Psycho and Superboy. And Dr. Psycho's like, "Okay, Superboy, I literally don't have any power here, so I just need you to understand. Don't listen to him. He is clearly super evil and manipulative." And he's like, "You're right. You are being manipulated, Superboy, but not by me. Here's the thing." And we get the backstory on Dr. Psycho. He was a young little boy named Edgar who never quite fit in, and all of his schoolmates made fun of him. And then one day he came home and his family didn't recognize him. No one knew who he was. So he went to the police, and the school didn't have any record of him, and nobody even has any record he was ever born. He was just wiped off the face of the earth. And what was supposed to happen was he was supposed to go for like a psychiatric evaluation. However, he was absorbed into Hive, and at Hive, they recognized that he is psychic latent ability, and they started running tests and whatnot on him. And some of them are pretty grotesque tests. And ones that are strong enough for Hive, they go out and become warriors. Other members of Hive just become psychic batteries. However, one day, Edgar made a connection to another person who was the one who had like weird skull powers or whatever back 6 issues ago. And using her, they managed to break out of Hive. But then he still was, not a real boy. He didn't exist on any records. So he used his abilities to read and influence people to try to destroy Hive. That's what he wanted, but he lacked the sufficient power until one day he saw you, and you had all this power. So he decided that as soon as he connected with you, he got your full backstory, and he was going to manipulate you and seduce you into being able to siphon off your power and destroy Hive. And Superboy fully believes this, and Dr. Psycho's like, "None of that is true." And Superboy's like, "You didn't know who I was? You didn't know my full backstory?" And he's like, "Okay, that part was true. I actually do know your full backstory." And also, Psycho Pirate reveals that he's part of the secret society. He got a little coin and everything, so he's super definitely evil. So at that point, Superboy is like, "All right, you know what? I don't know whether or not I trust you, Mr. Snake Man, but I definitely don't trust Dr. Psycho anymore. So why are you telling me all this?" And Psycho Pirate's like, "Because I want your power, but I'm going to be upfront about it. I'm going to ask you for it. I'm not just going to do it behind the scenes like this little prick." And Dr. Psycho's like, "Please, don't listen to him, man. Please don't do that." And at that point, Superboy just like shakes him, says stop lying, and he throws some punches at him. There's nothing he can do about it. But his anger is being amplified by Psycho Pirate, and he's giving off just like waves of energy, which Psycho Pirate is absorbing. So at that point, as he's about to throw a punch, Dr. Psycho pulls out a whole bunch of green energy and blasts Superboy back with like a projection of a giant man around him. And he's like, you have no idea the power I have, the power that Hive was trying to take from me. No one understood. I have all of these different powers mixed into one. I'm not weak anymore. So Psycho Pirate then grabs the back of Dr. Psycho's head and removes his memory of Superboy's past so that Psycho Pirate can use it as a bargaining chip. And then doing so also distracts Dr. Psycho long enough for Superboy to come in and just start beating the ever-loving crap out of him. Dr. Psycho manages to get a grip on Superboy, and they have like a weird mind meld thing where he tries to pull out Superboy's power. It's too much. It overwhelms him. And then both Superboy and Dr. Psycho black out. What happens to Dr. Psycho? Who knows? But Superboy, if you remember, and I don't fault you for not remembering this, all the way back in issue 20, we opened up with Superboy waking up in a red room without any powers, and Krypto was there. And then someone like knocked him out again. This is then. We see him wake up in that room. Psycho Pirate says, well, when you take away the super, all that's left is a boy. And he kicks Superboy in the face and knocks him out. So he doesn't have any powers. Okay, I'm going to be upfront with you here because I did kind of peek ahead. And that is only because the next issue of this book is a tie-in to the Superman event, Krypton Returns. Mind you, we are currently in a Superman event called Psy-War, which also is a tie-in to that, so it's just Superboy cannot tell his own story to save his own life. But here's the problem. The next issue of Superboy, number 25, in this trade, the very next thing you see is Superboy with his powers back. It's on the cover. It's on the cover of the book that he has his powers back. So all of this, which has apparently been planned out for 5 issues now, since issue 20, for him to lose his TK powers, is for nothing. And it all felt like it was building to this sort of friendship thing with Dr. Psycho of like, well, clearly there would be a betrayal at some point because Dr. Psycho is a villain, but even ignoring that, even ignoring what's happening next issue, in the end, it wasn't for anything that Superboy was doing on his own. It was specifically because we were doing a thing over in Superman, and we just had to have a single issue where he says, oh, by the way, I'm doing something over in Superman right now, but I'm also visiting you at the same time. Like, he's not even a part of that story. I dislike this issue. And I dislike this issue not because of what the issue itself is, but because of what it represents for this arc as a whole, which is this is just Superboy is unable to have his own book. Superboy cannot exist in a vacuum. Superboy cannot just be his own character. New 52 Superboy exists solely to be tie-ins and fodder for other books, whether that's Teen Titans, whether that's Legion Lost, whether that's The Ravagers, whether that's Superman. This is not its own book. This is fodder. And I dislike it every step of the way. So all in all, I'm going to give this one, I'm going to give it a 2. And it's not even because the book itself is that bad. I am being completely unfair to it, but I don't care. It is a 2 because this book should not exist. And I do not look forward to its next issue.